Hello everyone, and welcome to another amazing story. What if Gazaf Stronoff was sent to danmachi? This amazing story was written by Oblivion 2991. Please support them. Don't forget to like, sub, and leave a comment. Now let's dive in. Chapter 1. Death of the Captain, a Second Chance. His consciousness focused to the absolute limit. The man stepped in with unbelievable speed. For a moment stepping in the realm of heroes. Without missing a single moment, Brain and Climb opened their eyes and watched him with all their attention and focus, and faster than any of them, the world went quiet. Farewell, gazaf Stronoff. I never hated you. Just at the moment, the man raised his sword. The most likely last sentences he ever heard entered his mind, and in an instant, his body went limp. All his strength, all his determination turned to dust at the moment he moved. His heart stopped. His muscles refused to answer his call. Even with the kingdom's treasures in his arsenal, all his efforts worth nothing, for he faced a real monster. A monster with an unimaginable, unbeatable nature. A man he previously considered a savior, a possible ally, and maybe a friend, ended his charge just like that. Poor warrior captain, under such a short time, he can't even realize his hopes were of naught. That his battle was hopeless from the beginning. His mouth dry, before realizing what really happened, his heart throbbed its last rhythm. Blood up, his arms lowered, his muscles turning smooth noodles. He can't possibly hold his weapon, nor his adamantine hard armor, nor his own weight. He just started to fell forward like a great, unbearable weight weighing him down. Time moved in snail pace around him, all his accomplishments, all his life, like an absurd play, playing before his eyes faster than any outsider can perceive. From his earliest years as a simple commoner boy to being a mercenary, through his triumph in the grand tournament, to his rise as the kingdom's warrior captain, he saw it all, experienced it all once more. It was his beginning, and in the end, the last scene of the robed monster before him forever engraved in his brain. Sorcerer King Ain's Olgown. My name is Gazaf Stronoff, the warrior captain of the Re-Estai's kingdom. I formally request a duel with you. And now, as one of the last picture, his foolish challenge remained, making him remember how foolish, how naive he was. Challenging a monster of this nature. His loss was guaranteed. Worse, he knew it all along. Yet, even knowing his loss, he hesitated not to challenge this monster. To protect his kingdom, his just king, and his home, he threw away everything. Challenged a skeletal creature, a monster which called other horrible creatures to life, a magic caster that destroyed the kingdom's army under a few moments. A possible ally, their short-sightedness possibly pushed in the enemy's arms. Indeed, he saw it all, and it made him think for a moment. Why do I see all of this? I can't die like this, do I? I barely moved. What happened? I feel so tired. Thinking of this, first, fear filled him, then grief. In truth, these two, and several other emotions rapidly changed pace under the man's slowly fallen forward. Helpless, powerless to do anything. He met people who were resurrected previous. Almost all spoke about the same thing, the same act he experiences just now. If that's the case, that means he lost. Truly lost before the battle even started. He lost the duel. He knew he would lose even before it commenced. So this is, I lost. His world slowly went dark. His heart ceased to throb since several rhythms. This was the end. He lost. His inability pushed the kingdom in the hands of the monster, sealing the fate of whoever residing in it. He only prayed, if there was a god or even gods out there. If there was one the priests of the different religions ceaselessly prattled about, then they will not let this Ain's fellow continue his massacre and his evil ways. Even if the chance was slim, he hoped there was someone out there who cares about his last plea, wordless plea, and save his people. Wordless, Ain stepped forward to catch Gazaf's body. His sword fell from nerveless fingers and fell to the ground, his face frozen into perpetual disbelief and horror. Thud. And thus, under less than a second, the battle was over. The strongest warrior of the kingdom lost, just like that fallen dead. Not even a second passed since his charge started. Yet, Gazaf Stronoff, the kingdom's warrior captain, died just like that. Wah! Yet, there was no way, or even word to comprehend it. Nobody knew what was going on. What on earth happened? The hell should I know? Brain gave voice to an angry cry, answering the plea of the young man in white armor. What's wrong? Get up. Gazaf, his friend, at least he heard his voice before darkness claimed him. Yes, Gazaf heard Brain, but understood not what he is speaking. His voice was so distant, and this place was so dark, lonely and cold. He certainly expected the afterlife would be more vibrant, more majestic. But there was nothing here. Only lonely darkness awaited him. The priest certainly overhyped this place. With dark humor, he gave his opinion on the endless void now he found himself, chuckling low, somewhat bitter, mourning his own helplessness. Gazaf Stronoff was never really a religious man. He believed companionship and the strength of people, that success comes from hard work, not endlessly praying to an unknown deity, not asking for help, but striving towards betterment. In another word, the inner strength of the individuals earned through constant effort and hard work. Naturally, he was always respectful, giving the proper care what others think, trying never to belittle others for their beliefs, but always staying on his path, never deriving from it for a moment, constantly training to reach a higher level. Yes, that kind of man was he. But where it led him? To his destruction. Brain, climb, Your Majesty, please forgive me. He was tired, for an unknown reason. He was exhausted beyond measure. Falling in the darkness, time seemed meaningless in this place. I just wish I could go back in the fight, just once more, to warn them, to try harder to convince His Majesty and those stupid nobles never to attack Gondano and the Imperial Army. Even if it means our loss, dead can rarely get the chance of proper victory and continuation. Alas, it was only half-truth in a world where undead was constant sight. Still, if he would receive this chance, he would undoubtedly die in peace once completed his task. The man knew not how much time passed, or even where he was in real. He only knew he was tired. Yet, he felt, it is time to wake up. Something deep inside urged him. His sense of danger screamed to get up and get into action, and he felt one more thing. Inhale, exhale. His chest moved slowly, up and down. Air filled his lungs. Gazaf opened his eyes slowly, blinking. His vision still blurry, feeling something hard behind his back. Looking around, the environment seemed to be strange, like he was somehow dropped in a cavern system. Damn, I barely see anything. Cursing under his breath, rubbing out the sleep from his eyes, the former warrior captain right away recognized. Almost everything was dark. Only the slight yellow lights near the ceiling provided some source of vision. He was trained himself to fight, even in circumstances where the visibility was reduced or lost one or two senses, doing this without the use of martial arts. After all, monsters, demi-humans, ruffians with dirty tricks, or even magic casters with the ability to see in the dark or with skills, which were able to rob people from their senses, have no mercy on those who lack the ability to fight, even blinded. In fact, he struggled with opponents utilized this tactic in the past, almost dying under the process a few times. Under battle, it was essential to conserve your stamina and make tactical decisions. Every use of the martial arts, or as other people called, the use of the so-called warrior's magic, drained the user's endurance and exhausted the mind. Using martial arts just to increase the sharpness of his vision and senses in under bad visibility was the waste of energy if it served no other purpose. Squinting his eyes, walking closer to the wall and touching it, it was slightly wet. Watching it closer, the wall was colored brown, in several spots covered with fresh moss, like it grown on the walls just now. I wonder how I got there, Catching to his head, then watching his palm, he must have really hit his head hard, his hand covered with blood, and in an instant, he remembered what happened. What happened? I remember. Our duel with Gondano. If it can be really called a duel at all, he basically collapsed before he even moved. That. And now, everything started to come back. The darkness, the cold of that place. Ain's last words to him. Farewell, Gazaf Stronoff. I never hated you. His heart started to let out a rhythm before starting to thump heavier. All of this out of the sheer realization and tragedy. Yet, he can't accept it. He will never accept this possibility. He will deny it with all his strength. Damn it. He hit the wall with considerable strength, and under his sheer might a sizable piece fell down from the wall, leaving a deep depression resembling his clenched fist. The whole area trembled from the strike. Breath in, breath out. He, the kingdom's strongest fighter, die just like that? Impossible. Even Flutter Paradine, the Baharuth Empire's strongest magic caster, would be hard-pressed against him. And that is without the kingdom's treasures. Equipped with those items, he was sure he had the chance to defeat that old man. Even if he were a simple warrior, a warrior who said to be inferior to pure magic casters out of range difference, he would still have the chance. He, dying before even starting to move? Absurd. He can't accept such absurdity, even if my enemy. And thus, realization dawned who he raised his sword against, who he challenged to an all-out duel. Gazaf can't help but laugh in shame, shaking his head with a few tears rolling down his face. Gaundano, to beat me like this. Gazaf looked around once more, smiling somewhat shameful. It seemed he finally accepted his fate. But what had I expected? Gaundano is a formidable magic caster, a monster hiding behind a mask. Honestly, from the beginning, he was prepared to die. Against the man who dispatched those slain bastards so easily he struggled against. Against a man, or more like a monster, who made an army of more than 200,000 strong ran, cowering with their tail between their legs. Beaten, greatly reduced in numbers, he knew his chances. If 20,000 remained, that would be a lucky guess. Basically, the whole left wing died under a moment. More than 70,000 men died under the first minute of the battle under the charge, and it was only the beginning of the massacre. What came after that? He doesn't want to remember. It was too horrific even to recall it properly, or even partially. Me, he still shuddered to remember them. Those horrid tentacle goats with many mouths. Only out of his sheer will he did not crouch down and cry, vomiting in the corner, going insane. He was sure many who survived that battle would do just that, going mad after what they witnessed what happened on the battlefield that day. Even Razor Edge was unable to starch their thick hide, and he used various martial arts to raise his physical capabilities to his absolute limits. Even as one who was able to sense the weakness of the enemy and the chance of his win, he charged against them, hoping his senses divined a wrong chance of success. Those creatures just don't have a weakness. They were invincible. My chance to injure them basically was zero from the beginning. In truth, the sword, the royal treasure that's said to be so sharp it can cut through any metal and armor like paper, bent in a direction Gazaf thought impossible previous. He was honestly surprised it remained intact after the strike. My arm almost broke under pressure, yet it worth nothing. He hit the wall continuously, chuckling helplessly. Then, looking down at his bleeding fist, he clenched it stronger. Out of anger or shame, it did not matter. He decided, if there is a way to get back, he will have it. He will not let desperation overwhelm him. But maybe this is a chance. Looking around, he spotted several things on himself. It seems the royal treasure's still with me, or some of them. He found Razor Edge on its sheath, hanging gently from his side. Also, a medallion hung from his neck, a necklace called the Amulet of Immortality. This item provided limited regeneration to its bearer. Even now, he felt the cut on the back of his head, and his fist healed slowly but steadily, his muscles turning relaxed, less sore with each moment. It was an absurd amount of healing for most under a short time, yet Gazaf always thought it slow. It most likely cannot heal a neck, cut open in time. If the injury is lethal, the person will bleed out before the cut, or damage had been healed properly. Exhale. Exhaling a few times, the former warrior captain, the strongest man in the kingdom, collected himself. There was no time to waste. He needs to get back to his king, wherever he was. Now then, Gazaf looked forward. Even without the gauntlet of endurance which provided an endless amount of stamina, the Amulet of Immortality helped to complement some of his lost endurance. He already felt himself less strained, his muscles more relaxed. Even if it's the underworld, I will find a way back. Your Majesty, climb, brain, everyone, I will come back to you. The lights of determination lit anew in his black eyes, staring in the badly lit corridor. Your Majesty, wait for me. Gaundano, I am sorry, I just can't let things unfinished, even if I asked not to resurrect me. If a chance is given, I live to protect the kingdom. Ains was still a monster, but an honorable one as it. Gazaf had to give this to the man. He only hoped Ains regained a slight sprite of his humanity after his death, and the let beaten-up army go after his defeat, though it was only a distant dream. If Gazaf wanted to be more realistic, he only hoped Climb and Brain would not attack the man right away, and Ains would let them go as he promised. That was a more practical approach than the first version. There is no meaning wasting any more time here. Many people would be freaked out by a situation like this, curling in the corner and crying. Yet, Gazaf was not an everyday man. He was confident both of his abilities and end goal. Wasting time here may cost precious lives, the sacrifice he will not be willing to make in any way. He was a collected man, with a purpose and people to protect. He can't possibly let desperation overwhelm him. But where am I? Is this some kind of dungeon? Just now, measuring his environment, looking around one last time, checking nothing left behind, Gazaf Stronoff, the kingdom's warrior captain, started his journey, prepared to face anything standing between him and his goal, be it demons, demi-humans, humans, or monsters of any kind. He encountered plenty enough from the said creatures to know the best way for their elimination. He was confident in his abilities, and he will be damned letting others stop him without a fight. Even if it is the underworld, I will not give up without fighting. I will see this through. Fortunately, or unfortunately, he hadn't had to wait too long for a challenge, for in the next dozens of steps a strange noise hit his ears. Crack, crack, crack. Looking behind his back, a strange sight awaited him. The ceiling and the walls literally cracked open, sprouting strange creatures of peculiar shape. Ants, shadows? Some weird rabbit. Gazaf mumbled, measuring their appearance right away, reaching the golden handle of his sword. Some of the creatures were red ants, monsters with 4 legs and 2 arms. Even more, resembled dark humanoid monsters. Those had long arms with 3 claws that are sharp like knives. But there were a few who looked like huge rabbits with needle-like fur and had evil eyes. All of them was equally vicious. All of them thirst for his blood. He was sure of it. 1, 2, 3. He counted them rapidly, coming in the next conclusion. 5 ants, 10 shadow creature, 3 rabbits. He clicked his tongue. I need to be careful. Albeit, he counted as the strongest fighter in the kingdom of Riestais. Only fools would underestimate their opponents judging their appearance. Not if the said enemy had the numerical superiority. Not if the enemy was unknown for the fighter, rarely fighting similar creatures before. Just like back then, against those angels? Remembering his fight against the elite unit of the slain theocracy and their summons, and how miserably he was beaten, he knew too well how much numerical superiority means. As well, Ho's sour defeat taste. If possible, he rather avoided it. Sense weakness. Possibility sense. Gazaf right away activated his martial arts, and his vision widened right away, spotting the weak spots on the enemy's defenses, his mind calculating his chances of victory. Risking his chances now would be nothing more than foolish. Foolish considering his situation. Foolish considering his environment. Stupid, considering he wore no armor at all, just some peasant clothes that offered no protection. This too art would cost almost nothing. Nothing if we considered the powers of his amulet and the fact he will go against enemies who visibly thirst for his blood, moreover, unknown for him. Let's get over with this. And thus, he revealed his weapon, taking a proper stance. Pace of the wind. Gazaf's body lit up in a strange light, signing the activation of his martial art. Even in his exhausted state, a man who was able to use more than 6 martial arts at once can bear this much. Shoo. Breathing out, then exhaling the foggy air of this underground dungeon, Gazaf felt his body filled with energy. His muscles are stiffening, making him more agile and faster in an instant. He was an experienced veteran and saw many bug-like creatures in the past, yet he felt somewhat uneasy fighting against those shadows. He knew too well, monsters always hid 1, or 2, or many tricks on their sleeves, and he expected no less from these creatures, even if his possibility sense whispered a minimal amount of failure rate. The best he can do now is to open with an essential tactic, try to dodge attacks and measure the enemy's capabilities and tactic before doing anything rash. Chi. Chi chi chi. Immediately, sensing the danger, one of the ants charged against him, bearing its vicious chewing organ. Come on, Gazaf roared. and the creature reached him under a few moments. Yet, his speed was otherworldly, blurry, others might say superhuman. Under a moment, Gazaf dodged the creature's attack, and it was only a flash. The sword said to be capable of slicing armor no matter the material. Cut the creature at the half without resistance. This way easy. Honestly, he expected more resistance from a creature that bore carapace armor. Insectoid beings usually had their natural carapace that was highly resistant against all kind of damage and effects, sometimes even resisted magic. Yet, remembering what kind of weapon he held in his hand, what Ain said, the scruple descended on his mind for a moment, disappeared in an instant, replaced with a confident smirk. Of course, what am I thinking? Shaking his head and chuckling, his focus returned, recognizing the creatures charged against him, not one by one, but in groups. They most likely not mindless. Or even if mindless, they have some survival instinct. Good, I like a challenge. Using his speed and perfectly trained strength, Gazaf continued to fight. Fight, and fight. The amulet of immortality made him recover stamina faster than losing it. It was too easy, almost too easy. Slash, slash, slash. With each strike, more than one creature fall, exploding, turning into dust, and leaving a strange crystal. The creatures had no chance against Razor Edge and its wielder. They were only able to see a blur and a green flash. That was the sword's blade, before falling. Gazaf was a proficient blade user, the best swordsman in the kingdom. A warrior who was renowned and well known in the surrounding countries. A man who the neighboring nations deemed dangerous and considered a security threat, in so much to send special units against him, setting clever traps just to eliminate his person in his most vulnerable moment. With more than 1.5 decade practice and fighting experience behind his back, sparing not a creature, he aimed his strikes to lessen their number as soon as possible. Even with his capabilities and the enemy's inferior strength, he knew too well what it means if they surround him. Slash. Go. The last creature fell into dust, leaving strange stones as he pulled out his enchanted blade. Strange stones. Gazaf inspected one of the stones left behind by the monster's carcass. I wonder. He had an idea, but wasting more time here would do no good. He was sure, if he spends more time here, more creature will appear. It was like the walls born them. It was actually the third group he dispatched under a minute, all arising from the walls, the ceiling, or from the ground. It was odd in a sense. Thinking nothing of it, stuffing a few stones in his pockets, he left the corridor behind, heading forward. If this is the underworld, then the way must be up. He mumbled, and indeed it was a sensible idea. Every underground dungeon must have an exit which usually positioned in the upper levels. Even as a soldier, he knows that. I wonder. He heard a few stories from adventurers where a teleportation formation led to the exit or even the entrance of the dungeon. A place which is in a few chases usually sent them to the deepest level of the place, often to eliminate the opposition, sending them into a monster's nest. If that's that case, heading up, he will most likely encounter more and stronger enemies. Or in reverse, the opposition will be weaker as his way led upward. The first possibility had only a minimal chance. It was the minority of the case. He needs to risk going up, as it was the more reasonable possibility and the more frequent occurrence. Let's hope that's the case. Let's hope. This place is not endless as that priest prattled about the underworld. Endless wandering and suffering. My ass. It was not often Gazaf swore, and he usually refrained from it when he was in grand open. He was the king's bodyguard and the kingdom's first warrior, member of the loyalist faction. Doing so would picture the king in a bad light. A picture those hyena nobles would jump like hungry dogs on a fresh steak. In the current situation, that was the last thing Ramposa needed. The old king had enough concern without worrying about that. His kingdom already in the verge of civil war, and with this loss, the survivor nobles had a new reason to rise against him and challenge his rule. He only hoped Climb and Brain would stand on his side in the time of need. He just hoped the king's children would stand on his side in a time of need. Shaking his head, he will have time to think later in a safer place. But now, I need to find a way out first. After that, I can worry about the rest. Thought. Many things concerned Gazaf's mind just now. As well, he had no idea if he will ever find the exit of this place. He decided it will be the concern of his future self, not his current. No time to waste. Grabbing on his sword, he once again set forward, seeking the way on the upper floors. A few hours of wandering later, he found a few ramps that led on the upper levels. For that, Gazaf was glad, and it seemed this is the way out. As the more levels he left behind, the weaker and less enemy he encountered. This place is like a labyrinth. Gazaf clicked his tongue annoyed, and indeed it was. Many times he found a way down, forcing him to turn around and search another way, encountering no other sensible life forms, just monsters wherever he went. Yet, he was glad. The upper he went, the weaker monsters he met. For example, since 2 levels, he did not meet any ant creatures or any moth-like flying monsters. That he was glad. Those 2 was honestly annoying with their corrosive long-ranged attacks, and with that poisonous pollen they left behind. Gazaf can shrug of toxic and even acidic effects somewhat, using martial arts, but he rather not wasted his stamina on that. As well, it had a limit on how much poison or any other harmful effect he can resist. Even his body had limits. Even with the Medallion of Immortality, if his body receives too much damage, he will die. At least, the monsters become weaker and weaker as I head up. That's a plus. On the other way, the monsters until now he encountered were easy prey for the warrior captain. Even those ants were falling like flies under his blade. Not speaking those creatures he can only classify as goblins. Albeit, strangely, their intelligence was lower than the ones he encountered in the kingdom. They were nothing more than an annoyance for now. It is hard to imagine them act more unreasonable like back then. At least those goblins in the kingdom and around the capital worked somewhat together to make us work harder, using some tactic. But these... Gazaf clicked his tongue annoyed. These are just swinging their primitive clubs like animals, charging against me without fear of their life. Back in the kingdom, there were times when Gazaf and his soldiers were dispatched to eradicate the pest directly threatened the people. Times when the king or even the Golden Princess received urgent news about the monster gathering for a possible raid, having no time to spare to post an assignment for the Adventurers Guild, then waited out until a team takes it. He and his soldiers were sent to eradicate them. Usually speaking, it was sensible. He and his soldiers usually resided in the capital. Giving them the command to go and kill those lowly monsters was easier, as well cheaper than hiring adventurers. Also, it was good practice for his soldiers. They lived in a dangerous world filled with monsters beyond imagination. This served their growth. There were even times when Gazaf himself accompanied the Blue Rose and the Red Drop, the kingdom's 2 adamantine-ranked adventurer group, for certain missions served the interest of his country. Yeah, good times. He mused, remembering their action together. Thought, he encountered different creatures down there, from goblins to huge moths, to lizard creatures, to huge ants to those strange shadows. He was still somewhat concerned. If it would be an open space with a high ceiling, against flying opponents, Gazaf couldn't do much without ranged weaponry. His only option would be running away, hoping the enemy gave up on the pursuit. If that option were out, luring them into a closed-off space where he can reach them with his sword, or hit them with something that would force them to the ground would also work. Well, let's hope that never happens. Hopefully, these stones worth something. Remembering what he heard from the adventurers about monster parts, he was sure he would get some coin in exchange of these stones, and the few monster parts left behind after those creatures exploded. Even if this was the underworld he found himself, some kind of exchange system surely exists here. Of course, assuming any sentient life lives here which was sensible enough not to attack him right away. If I ever get out, I need a new armor until I find the kingdom's treasures. I have a few coins in me barely. Naturally, going in war, often the soldiers left their money behind in a safe place. Even if they died, their family could keep the money. If they would bring it with themselves in the battle, the enemy, or even their own companions would just plunder their cold, dead bodies after dying on the battlefield. That's how humans worked in war, always seeking opportunity and wealth. Thinking of this, Gazaf already cut down a massive amount of creatures heading upward, every monster acting like he was some kind of infestation they had to purge, charged against him without a second thought. The man managed to collect a hefty amount of crystals and some monster parts left behind because of this reason. He doesn't know what use he will have them later, but he had a few ideas. Anyway, it was better to have them than regret later. He found no harm picking them up and carrying them around. His leather pouch and his pockets were already full thought. He can bring not much more without a bag to collect them. It seems, listening to the nonsense stories of that burly woman worth the effort and the time. Remembering the few times when he and the Blue Roses meet, Gazaf clearly remembered the chatty nature of one of their members. He was a good audience when it comes to that. Hearing the noble's accusations and senseless prattle day by day on his king's side forced him to be one, but Gagarin was just too much, even for him. Her mouth never ceased to move. It was even worse when she was actually drunk and tried to bed him. The lovely warrior full of mystery. He mumbled and chuckled, remembering the self-proclaimed name of the adamantine rank adventurer. Poor Lady Lockhughes, at the end of that day, she was the one who apologized. Jogging at a steady pace, Gazaf shrugged. Now, experiencing the difficult scale of this place, he was confident of his abilities and now, somehow pitted the fact, he can't challenge himself. Even in this underworldly labyrinth, his skill was without par. It is a pity, though. Every warrior and fighter thirsted for the challenge. He was no different. Even the famous warrior captain who had so little opportunity to find a worthy opponent wanted a person who was his equal. A person who pushes him through his limits. A person who proved a reasonable challenge. A motivator that made him push harder. With the exception of Brain, Gagarin, and his master, there was only a few people he can name and provided all of this. Excluding Master Gown, who killed me right away, sending me this place, a joke on me. Gazaf chuckled bitterly. Since the start, he barely had to use any martial arts to even the odds. His training, physical strength, and endurance was well enough for this scale. As well, with 2 sacred royal treasures in his possession, hardly anything could stand in his way. It was almost like he is cheating his way through this place. I still need to find the other 3. Yes, standing before my king without them would be a shame. Coming in his mind just now, he remembered, returning without all 5 sacred royal treasures would surely give a new opportunity to the noble faction to reignite the enmity in the kingdom. The situation was already catastrophic back then. King Ramposa III needed not one more point where the nobles could pierce his already Moorish power base. Yeah. Abruptly, Gazaf's train of thoughts had been disturbed by a strange noise. It was not the usual creak of the walls, birthing more monsters, but the horrific sound of a most likely monstrous creature. And if he heard it right, a young girl who most likely not even reached his teens, probably chased by the beast. Damn it, are there others down in this hellish place? Of course, how should it be otherwise? If his guess was right, this was the underworld. Of course, more lost souls wander in this hellhole. Pace of the wind. Once more, he activated his martial art, rushing forward with blurring speed. Wanting to have a closer relationship with cute girls. Wanting to interact with beautiful ladies of different races. Oh, how beautiful dream this was. Unfortunately, holding to this somewhat improper, or perhaps immature thoughts time to time was quite hard, if not impossible. Yet, isn't this a healthy personality for a young male? Wanting to have the girl, or in some instances, more than one, maybe a whole harem? Yes, most males, most of the times in their teens, inexperienced about worldly things grab to this dream, making it their own. A hero, earning the love of the girl, or multiple ladies at once, or in time, one by one. That was a proper dream. Yet, unfortunately, the word, dream, was present in the sentence. Thus, in the real world, gaining this chance was harder and rarer than any other younglings might imagine. Often pursuing this dream ended up with total disappointment, turning away the younglings from the pursuit for more reasonable goals, or, in some cases, even presented death those who pursued this beautiful concept. Still, can't a man have an encounter in the dungeon? Or better said, search for a harem in this dangerous place? Is this really that wrong? Conclusion. Seeing the current situation, peeking behind his back with a terrified face, the young boy with white hair and red eyes realized it was utterly wrong and most likely a misguided idea. Whoever comes up with this stupid dream should be kicked in the nuts and sent away for a long vacation to think through what he really proposed to the younger generations. Yeah, Kemi-sama, save me. Hearing his girlish screams, the creature enraged, increasing its pace. Or, was it like the monster laughing in his face? He was not sure. He was too terrified to care. Either way, It was equally terrifying and shameful to think more about it. But I guess this was the result when an adventurer, like the boy was, holding such improper and immature thoughts like encountering a girl in the dungeon encountered a monster out of his league instead. Because of this, he was about to die. To be more precise, he was currently being chased by a monster with a human body and a bull's head. In another name, a minotaur. Either way, the end result was the same. Yes, he was about to die. A horrible way, I might say. Why me? This monster was utterly immune to his attacks. A boy, who was only a mere level 1, entirely outclassed by this beast. And because of this sad circumstance, he was about to be eaten by it. Why? Why? What a minotaur doing in this level? According to Ina, I can only meet them on the lower floors. Thinking on this helped not, as it made the boy think more. Thinking more usually ended up with more questions popping up in his head, and with more questions come hesitation. The hesitation that further bolstered his already stomach-churning fear. Oh no! Suddenly, the boy stopped, seeing the solid wall before him. I entered a dead end. That's right. Oh, Kemi-sama, what now? So this is my fate for being obsessed with such a shallow delusion. Becoming a monster's food. I am such a fool. Scolding himself helped not, as it further bolstered his already high adrenaline and fear level. He was about to faint. Only grabbing the dull dagger in his hand made him stand somewhat. Fumph! Like steam leaving through two narrow holes, the boy tremblingly turned his head. Behind him towered the minotaur, waiting for his move, drooling and carving for his tender, young flesh. I am such a fool for expecting a fateful encounter. I wanted it. I wanted it so much. But not an encounter like this, not like this. He bit his lip in shame, remembering the person who told him all of this. The man who gave him the delusion's idea to become an adventurer. The dream he can encounter beautiful girls in this place, saving them, making them his lovers. The purpose of becoming rich and getting a crowd of wives and concubines was naturally just a dream. Now he started to realize that. At the instant when I first began to prepare and search for an encounter in the dungeon where numerous people die daily, I was already finished. Oh, Kemi-sama. I expected a different encounter. Gulping, it was evident how much the creature is enjoying his scruple and fear, if it was possible for such a being. It literally waited, closing slow just to increase the boy's pulse, and the adrenaline coursed through his system. I really want to go back. Go back in the time and punch myself, who had just become of age and was signing the registration document with sparkling eyes at the guild. Unfortunately, the boy was well aware. No matter from what physical angle or how metaphysically he see his surrounding, the variable others just call fate was not on his side. Not today, not ever. These things were already impossible. He was not a god. Less was the possibility he was a goddess. He can't travel through time, nor stop it, nor move it. He can only do things once. He was a simple human. That was the sad truth of his existence. Rara. Like a flash, the Minotaur's hoof closed. A3. Although it did not directly kick his back, every step it took crushed the earth, so even the location where he was standing was being affected by the impacts. The boy wasn't able to stand still and could only roll around the floor of the dungeon. But it was better, I think. If he remained still, he would be turned to paste under a short time. The boy screamed, out of options, his back against the dead end, sitting on the floor, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The wish of encountering cute girls, he already gave up on it, completely destroyed by the harsh reality, and his weakness made evident by this creature. It looks like from the very beginning, he did not have the qualifications to become a hero from the fairy tales. His back hit the wall. There was no path to retreat. I passed through dozens of paths. Still, this thing finally managed to chase after me, forcing me into this square-shaped space. Whimpering, a few drops of tears rolled down on his cheek, under him a steady puddle of water gathering. The stench of ammonia spreading in the air, mixing with the fuggy atmosphere of the dungeon. I'm dead. His teeth constantly chattered. Tears also flowed down in torrents. His own skin could completely feel the deep and heavy breath exuded from the Minotaur. Gore. The creature stopped before him, breathing steam on his face. So close, he literally felt the stench full air invading his snoot-filled nostrils. Raising his head, and staring at the muscular body that was 1 to 2 times larger than the boy was. As if he ultimately gave up, his face expressed a downright disgusting slight smile. In the end, I did not have an encounter with a girl, he mumbled, his body going limp, giving up on his life. There was no escape, there was only death. Yet, just as his cowardly brain spouted these incorrigible thoughts that were on to give up on any function completely, a roar hit his ears, a quite loud one as it. A roar of a manly man. "Oea, come here, you bastard." Provocation. It was a man's voice that hit his ears in the next moment, and strangely, immediately, the Minotaur turned around, leaving its food and prey alone. Like it would be not interested in the boy anymore, like it would be willing to give up on a prepared meal, just to hunt a more dangerous prey bearing a strange weapon. "Gwa!" The creature roared loud. Enraged, its muscle-filled body gained a new volume, stretching to its limits. Charge. Flow acceleration. In the next instant, the air boomed, the whole surrounding trembled as the man started his charge. And under less than a moment, a blur clashed with a monster, and like a flash. Slash, 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 slice. The beast froze. The boy was not even saw what really happened, nor could normally perceive it. It all happened too fast for his limited perception of a level 1 adventurer to process. Yeah, whoa. Those were the dumb sounds issued by the boy and the Minotaur. Yet, in the end, the monster froze, only tremblingly reached towards the muscled person before it. Then, many lines appeared on the creature's body. Thin lines, those like net connected to each other, running through from tip to toe, from finger to head. Doing this in a neat, surgical way. A few long moments passed as the Minotaur trembled helplessly, and in the next moment, "Gwa!" One last desperate dying roar, and following the perfectly carved lines, the Minotaur's body also fell down in parts. Along with the blood spraying out, the dark red liquid gushed out. The creature completely collapsed. No, fallen to small pieces in the next moment. A large amount of blood spattered onto the boy's body as if he had taken a shower. He was completely frozen stiff. "Ah!" Little White Rabbit whimpered, covered in blood, and only glimpsed the sweating man before him. "Are you all right, lass? Are you injured?" The boy, around the age of 14 to 15, watched the man who offered his hand, somewhat watching this stranger with awe and fear. His stature of a hero, saving a damsel in distress. "But I am not a girl. This is not right. It is I who's supposed to save the girl." Leaving such miserable thoughts behind. Whoever this man was, he must be of a high-level adventurer, level 3 or above. No one move that fast and be low level. No one can carve a Minotaur apart just like that with that ease and be weak. He must be a legendary figure. Whimpering a few more times, the boy measured his savior fearfully. He was quite muscled, athletically he might say, his skin well tanned, most likely carrying southern blood in his veins. But what was more intriguing, the greenish sword in his hand. It carried a slight glow, slightly illuminating the nearby area, and was extremely sharp-looking. In a way it could cut even the air. The weapon certainly made his eyes wander on the blade immediately. It was completely clean, not a drop of monster blood covering it. The cut was so clean, not even wearing an armor. An enchanted weapon. His eyes almost fall out from their sockets, gasping in adoration. Weapons with magic enchantments were freaking expensive. Only familiars with a steady background, foundation, and income can allow buying one, and even then, it is usually carried by the captain or a specialist in the group who can use the item's power the best way. Unfortunately, the little White Rabbit was too scared and enamored figuring out who this man was to remember Ina's, his dungeon advisor's, advice and teachings. He only knows enchanted weapons were rare and expensive, but nothing more. Whose familia he belongs to. He must be pretty famous. Still, I don't know who he is. The boy asked himself before he answered, accepting the offered hand slightly trembling, offering an awkward smile. "Oh, I am fine." "Oh." The man blinked, then nodded somewhat confused. Most likely because he mixed the lad with a lass. From the scream, the latter was more evident than the first. "That's good." He smiled friendly. "I was worried for a moment. Being alone in this underworldly place indeed scary." "Yeah." The boy with white hair scratched his head embarrassed, only to hear a gleeful laugh coming from the darkness behind them. "Ha ha ha ha. That was priceless. Did you see that, Ace? The kid just, ag, and the Minotaur, blurg. A strange man, or teen. Gazaf can't decide. Not as it was important now. Stepped in the light, watching something on his side, grabbing his abs in glee, laughing on the poor boy. On the top of his head, 2 canine ears peeked out, his hair gray, behind his back a wolf tail wiggling left and right in happiness. Is he a demi-human, or? Gazaf encountered magic casters who were able to change specific properties of their body, either growing plus appendages or something more appropriate, increasing their muscle mass to balance out their weak physique. A wolf ear and tail was not that strange. It served its purpose. The sharper hearing comes in handy in battle, but it also can be exploited by a veteran warrior like himself. As the tail, he was not so sure what it can be used. He felt it somewhat unnecessary. Maybe this strange transformation came with a spell. In the next moment, a second person stepped in the light. A girl to be exact. She was strangely wordless. Her armor was odd. A blonde swordsman wrapped in blue equipment with golden eyes. That's... The boy covered in blood whimpered, starting to guess the real person of this young blonde. And beautiful. He mumbled, and his heart missed a rhythm. He right away recognized the famous person arrived to save him. Yet, was too late. The muscled warrior was the first to come to his aid. Still, he just can't take his eyes from her. The silent girl mere presence and sight mesmerized his heart, pushing him into shame and want. Wordlessly, the girl headed towards the two, measuring the boy covered in blood and the warrior, who so easily dispatched the terrific creature. Ace, the demi-human asked confused, but the girl just ignored him, walking towards the two, keeping her vow of silence all along. Her face was beautiful, yet her expression. Gazaf knew that face, her eyes, as well her appearance was of a dead person. Poor girl, so young. Gazaf shook his head wordless. He knew it too well. The face of a battle-hardened veteran who burned out from the constant battles. The look of a person who lost everything and now only pursued one goal, concentrating on reaching it endless, caring nothing about anymore. But the burden of knowledge, she survived, and ever since carrying the remorse of her survival. The scar, maybe never heal in her soul. Are you too? All right, stopping before them. As expected, her tone was of a monotone sadness, yet, deep inside Gazaf felt a slight concern, a slight regret that her voice carried. Sorry, we arrived too late. Gazaf wanted to say, it is no problem, he handled the situation, but he was one moment too late, as the boy behind him. Stumbling forward, he ran away, like he saw a ghost, or a terrifying monster, his face filled with shame and scare. What the heck? The werewolf looked after the kid annoyed, before shrugging, deciding, it is not his business. If he dies, he dies. We should not come down here. Pathetic. He mumbled aloud, caring not what others think. Ace, the blonde girl blinked for a moment confused, looking after the strange blood-covered boy running away, then turned back to the man, looking the blood-splattered place where the remains of the Minotaur disappeared. It was you? She asked, and her tone gained some color for a moment. Gazaf can't decide what she really thinks. Such girls were hard to read. Indeed. It was me. What happened? We need to get after him. Something might. Ha. Don't concern yourself because of that pathetic little rabbit. The werewolf stepped forward smirking. The weak die. That's the law of nature. He most likely so scared he just ran away from the town. By the way, nice sword work. I wouldn't have done it better. If glare could kill, Gazaf's would have killed the demi-human several times, burning a hole through his skull. Seeing his glare, the werewolf glared back in anger and annoyance, clicking his tongue. TCH. What? Don't you agree? The garbage should not come down here. They should just die if they do so, whimpering, curled in the corner, alone, like trash they are. Gazaf wanted to hit the smirking man really hard just now. His suddenly appeared rage urged him to do so. Yet, grabbing the handle of his sword tighter, breathing and sheathing it away, right way foregone this idea. He had no time for this nonsense. They were the only people he meets until now. The boy, this demi-human, and the blonde girl. He had the urge, but he withheld his hand. Who knows how many people he can encounter in this underground labyrinth? Maybe they are the last. Even if they stuck in the underworld, He would never descend into such an unruly act. His honor as the warrior captain demanded him to be better. Hey, I am speaking to you. Where are you going? Gazaf ignored the shouts of the strange man, heading forward where the boy disappeared. Hey, don't look down on me. Bet. Aze grabbed her companion's shoulder before he could do anything rash, and the werewolf backed, grinding his teeth furious. Where are you going? The silent girl only asked this much, and the man answered with a steady tone, looking back only for a moment. After the boy, it is dangerous down there. He is confused. He might die if he encounters monsters in that state. Don't be ridiculous. Those are simple. Bet. Looking at Aze, who squeezed his shoulder once more, the girl shook her head, looking after Gazaf, who started to sprint, disappearing in the darkness the corridor offered. Who was this moron? I don't know, Aze answered solemnly, recalling the fight, glancing the blood-filled scene. Not many can eliminate a minotaur that quickly, not speaking how fast he was. She could barely follow his movement. The whole fight ended under a moment. Even she was not sure she could replicate this feat and technique. What a strange technique. The sword princess mumbled with slight jealousy in her tone, watching the man's disappearing silhouette in the dark corridor. Then, her attention turned to the sizable crystal remained after the monster. He left it behind. Bet asked. An idea is coming on his mind in the next moment. No matter, more money for us. Just as he picked up. In the next moment, an unusual sight occurred. Drop, shatter. The crystal fell apart into perfectly cut pieces, an impossible feat without techniques aimed to do just this. Even the insides of it were perfectly smooth, like the blade not even damaged the individual parts, just separated separate entities once more. What the? Strange. Aze inspected the tiny, sliced fragments closer, trying to find out how it was possible. Running. Gazaf sprinted after the boy. Deactivating his martial arts, he deemed sufficient his stamina and speed to continue his way without them. His endurance slowly regenerated by the amulet of immortality. Judging from the boy's speed, he can't be too much ahead of him. Where is he? Slowly, the bloodstained trail on the ground disappeared, like the dungeon itself sucked it up from the ground. It was odd. Almost like this place would be alive, only existing to destroy anyone coming down here, eating them alive, and now, Gazaf lost his way. Damn it! Facing a crossroad, he cursed. Since his arrival, many times he encountered such two or more way corridors down here, and he started to get enough of them. Why this place is so extensive? He had to choose left or right. A boy's life depended on his right choice. Did you see that? What? That kid? Yeah, poor fella. He was covered with blood from tip to toe. From the right corridor, several intelligent-sounding voices hit his ears, most likely other people heading this way. Hey, huh? The adventurers watched the man confused. With a simple linen shirt and a sword on his side, he was indeed an odd sight. Did you see a kid, covered in blood, running somewhere? You mean that newbie? The boy certainly wore oddly exiguous amount of protection. Basically, only a chest plate and elbow protectors, and if Gazaf saw it right, only a dagger laying on his side before grabbing it, he ran away. Yes. Where is he? The elf remained silent for a moment, thinking before pointing the way. That way. I think he headed towards the entrance of the floor. From his expression, most likely heading on the surface. What? How many floors there are? Gazaf's insistent tone made the adventurer group back a little bit. His face was slightly scary. We are on the 5th floor, whimpered the one in the middle. And how do I reach the surface? It was a confusing question. But most of the party members were not surprised. The dungeon had many floors and was quite extensive with many dead ends and alternative routes. An inexperienced adventurer without familiarity with the floors easily loses their way. Damn it, Gazaf had no time for this. Thus, decided to continue his way without any knowledge, following the direction the group pointed out. Hey, wait. He was already far. His speed was astonishing. Damn, what a prick. He is fast, don't you think he is? No way. I think he is some kind of newbie too chasing after his friend. Do you really think so? Blinked the small, scrawny kid-looking individual, who was a Palom. He is quite old to be a newbie, and his physique? A newbie having that athletic physique is quite odd. Maybe just a soldier from Rakia who decided to become adventurer, think nothing about it. Maybe you are right. And thus, the small group continued their way, heading down into the deeper levels of this endless catacomb. Continuing his sprint, the former warrior captain had many questions. Questions he should have asked that too, or even from that strange group. Yet, he had no time. He had no idea why, but after saving the boy, he felt somehow responsible about what happened. After saving him, it should be his responsibility to escort him to safety. I should have sprinted after him right away. I could easily catch up with him. Damn it, his years wearing armor, endless endurance exercises, and practicing ceaseless paid out. He felt no fatigue at all. Even without the kingdom's treasures, he could keep up this pace for a long time. Running some more, merely cutting down the goblins and other weak creatures getting in his way, he encountered a few other groups under the road. Did you see a blood-covered boy running through here? Is this the way to the surface? The confused dwarf in chainmail just pointed the way, but before could say anything more the man left him behind, too flabbergasted to say anything. Thank you. He must have looked quite strange, running with full speed through the floors, leaving behind many questioning people. Who was that guy? Don't ask, maybe a newbie. Most of them just shrugged him off, continuing the way downward. Thought, a few of them measured him with critical eyes. Amongst them a certain high-ranked individual looked after him with an experienced look. Like a flash, gazaf strode through the floors with great speed, reaching a wide road that led to many stairs leading up to the surface. There is no other way. Sweating slightly, the captain left behind the time passing people. Heading up, up and up. In the end, he reached the entrance, the most likely surface. Behind him, the center of the room is a 10-meter-long hole that leads straight into the dungeon. Within the circular room, there were multiple columns at equal intervals, and above is a beautiful azure painting of the heavens that resembles the real sky. Along the circle are gentle stairs that spiral down into the dungeon. I managed to get out. He looked around, and honestly, he was surprised. Reaching the surface, he expected a hellish place up there. A place where from people escape to that endless maze. But this, he was confused. There are, looking around, many people waited in the room, waiting in a neat line to get down. Quite a few people. Why do they want to go down in that hellish place? Is there something out there they want to escape? Excuse me. What? Approaching the half-asleep guard, the man with cat ears replied bluntly. Gazef's eyes twitched. Sleeping in guard duty? If this man were his subordinate, he would have chastened him for neglecting his duty. He was an easygoing man, but when it came to discipline and the service of the king, his men were the most combat-worthy unit in the whole kingdom. Slacking in his unit meant reprehension or severe punishment in most of the cases. Yet, this man was not his subordinate. Thus, he gulped down his pride as a soldier and asked the question, "Did you saw a bloodied boy?" Quite a young lad. He described the boy, but the guard with an expression as rich as a dead fish simply replied, bored before yawning. Nope. Now get out there, others waiting in the line. I see. And with that, Gazef left, seeing no other way. Blowing through the wide entrance looked around. The crowd was too thick. He will surely not find the boy anymore. At least he is safe, hopefully. He breathed in sight of relief. He did not give up, just considered the situation and come to the conclusion he can't find him amidst so many people. Strange place. I wonder where I am dropped. Didn't Master Gown kill me? I was just teleported somewhere. As he considered this idea, Gazef looked around. He realized, maybe this place was not as hellish as he first thought. What awaited him made him a little scared, confused, wondering. Even he doesn't know what to feel. All these people around, all those races, dwarfs, elves, humans, kids, animal people, and this place. The city around was beautiful and full of life, even more filled than the main square of the capital. What the hell is this? Master Gown, what have you done? Making a few steps, looking back at the building where he came from, Gazef watched the majestic tower that reached above the skies with disbelief and awe. Where the hell am I? And thus, Gazef Stronoff reached the surface. What adventures await the former warrior captain in this brave new world? You will know next time. Chapter 2. Day 1. New in the town. Wow. So much pain. Oreo, the city of mysteries, the labyrinth city of the dungeon. Alone in this place, one can find the endless underground maze many just call the dungeon. Day after day, people, many just refer them as adventurers, try their luck, risking their life descending in this endless labyrinth. Many dies, less emerge once again victorious, their sacks filled with the spoils of the adventure. Filled with strange stones, varies in size and shape, and different monster parts. Parts and stones the organization just called the guild exchange for valuable coins. Day after day, 3 outcomes due to these people. 1. Surviving the adventure. Gaining their daily bread from the spoil, they leave the catacomb, either injured/uninjured, going on their way just to return the next day for more stones, more monster parts to sell, more adventure, or rather a trauma, to experience. 2. Never again see the light of the sun, dying down there, alone, abandoned, either killed by the monsters or backstabbed by their own friends, left to their fate just to the said creatures finish the work and make the last scrap of evidence disappear. This happened more time than one may think. Greed was a hefty motivator, and most adventurers were the greediest kind. And lastly, the third possible outcome. After the great surfeit experience down there, losing a few friends or suffering a crippling injury, the adventurers never returned to that hellish place, leaving their adventurer days behind, maybe forever. Traumatized, searching for some safer profession. Time to time, even leaving the city permanently. Most sane person would do just that, but the call of adventure, the promise of wealth always attracted the people. It was too irresistible to leave this senseless profession behind. The greedy, the ones with the spirit of adventure, the ones who thirst the challenge and wishes to challenge the dungeon. People with childish dreams, the less sane ones, those who had nothing to lose, searching their death endless in the chasm, or even people with other reasons not mentioned above. All are seeking this place out of their own purpose. All are risking their life day after day. Indeed, many people sought their luck, challenged their sanity, just to claim one from the reasons mentioned above. Not many returned home. Some crushed, some filled with the glee of adventure after emerged to the surface, doing so day after day. It was a dark, dark place, with an even more mysterious history dating back into the ancient times. The times when people fought monsters, using their own prowess, not the blessing of the gods. The times before the gods descended, just to play their small games, getting bored by their unchanging self and realm. It was indeed a cruel game. The game played between gods and mortals since ancient times. The square we see in the scene was usually always full. Day and night, the traffic was a constant sight. Noisy people, heading in and out from the said layered labyrinth, chatting with each other, telling tales of heroism and dare. People of different races mixing in this crowd. Amongst them, simple humans, even females with dark skin and athletic build, wearing bite-sized clothes which offers of lack of terms very little for the imagination, also known as Amazons. Hobbits, with a small build, trying to substitute their lack of bodily quality with their bravery and dare. Graceful elves with long pointy ears, burly dwarves with majestic beards and a merry look, demi-human people, mixing different animal characteristics, and of course, half-breed individuals, mixing 2 or more racial heritage in their veins. Almost all of them was strange, wearing protective armor, or daring their luck diving in without it, carrying weapons of a different kind. Behind most of the groups, people walking, carrying huge bags on their backs, filled with the loot they earned that day, also called supporters. Around in the square and the streets, many clerks offered their wares. The shops open almost all day, seeking to entice the passing by with their wares. Yet, even in this bustling city, outsiders existed. A lone figure sat on the edge of the fountain, which faced the towering tower. A lone figure, carrying a huge backpack, compared to her size, sitting there motionless all day. She looked like a child, wearing a plain, torn cloak, a hood pulled on her head. Compared to her backpack was of a giant. One cannot really imagine her moving this pack without falling back. Still, she sat there, staring her small legs. Like an anchor, nothing can move this petite girl. Why am I like this? She asked herself over and over again, spending her days alone, waiting for something, or rather someone to give some manner of meaning to her solitary existence. This place usually always full of people, mostly with the passing adventurers. People who are rarely sparing her a pitying/disgusted glance. Yet, because of her small stature and weak-looking physique, it is usually rare anyone takes her to support them. Thought, this small girl often sad. Time to time interesting things also happen around her. For example, take this place. Just this day, not long ago, a kid covered with blood from tip to toe dashed through the street, screaming from the top of his lungs. It is good to see those despicable people also feel despair time to time. She hummed to herself, keeping her opinions securely amidst the walls of her mind. It won't do any good for her if others know what she thinks. Where the hell am I? Abruptly, her ears perked hearing the abrupt jam, looking in the direction of rising voice annoyed. In the center of the attention, a man stood, flabbergasted watching the tower, which peaked above even the clouds almost infinitely. The man just stood there, watching like it was the first time he sees it in his life. It was evident. The first thing adventurers come across before entering the dungeon was this skyscraping tower the gods put there after demolished the previous, less impressive one. Anyone went in, had to see it. Anyone left it, had to leave it behind their back at the end of the day. Hearing his scream, many passers-by watched him either annoyed or confused. In the end, watching him backing slightly, a perpetual confusion mixed with a slight horror mirrored from his face. Most simply shrugged and continued their way back and forward, heading towards their intended destination, but a few tried to calm him. "See, sir? Are you okay?" One of the adventurers stopped, checking he is all right. Time to time people popped up who did weird things. It was not the strangest thing the girl saw sitting here, waiting for someone asking her to do her job. For example, once she witnessed a man, wearing rags, and a board hangs from his chest with some weird text, spouting nonsense about the apocalypse and the end. Naturally, the guards led him away under a short time. Compared to that, a man shouting where he is, not that strange. Albeit, in a sense it was strange. Basically, this was the central square of the whole labyrinth city, both when it comes to size and location. This place basically right in the middle of the entire town. Anyone not knowing where they are either stupid or blind. Or, it happened previously, a few people lost their way in the meandering alleys, but it was a rare occasion. Deviate from the 8 main avenues. Those slice the city to 8 equal parts, and you can lose your way. Oreo not accidentally called Labyrinth City. But aside from that, in this town, no matter where you were, it was tough to lose your way completely. If you felt yourself lost, you could easily find your way back here. You have few options to navigate after all. You can either follow the biggest crowd, find one of the 8 main roads those stretched from the circular walls, those surrounded the city, and meet in this point, or simply read the signs those pointed in this direction. It wasn't that hard. Even if you had absolutely no idea where to start, and was illiterate, even then you had options. You only needed to look up, spot the rod which stretched endlessly towards the skies, and head towards it. It was not that hard, you can't really miss it. Only if you are blind or a complete idiot, thought the small girl. Either way, eventually, you will find your way here. This was the unwritten rule of the city. You can't lose your way in the labyrinth city. Every road leads to Babel. No matter how ironic it sounded, this was the truth. Yet, this man was the perfect example of this sad truth. Idiots existed. Even with this much help, one can be lost. Idiot. The small girl murmured deadpanned. Whoever taught her this word must be not a nice person. I am fine. Gulping deep, the confused man breathed deep. I just need to sit down a little bit. Are you sure, sir? We can take you to the guild. Or, the adventurer, who was evidently a half-elf, judging from the size of her ears, remained silent for a moment, thinking, looking worried, underbit her lower lip. Which familia are you from, sir? We can take you back to your base if you want. Familia? The confused one looked at the adventurer strange like he never heard this word. Man, you really hit your head. Scratching his head, the second one watched gazaf confused. How can someone forget about their familia? I am fine really. I just need to sit down. Are you sure? Sure. Please, don't even bother with me. Gently, after a long breath, he hissed away the worry, looking up at the tower once more with a confused expression. The scrawny adventurer in robes nodded unsteady, griping her staff heavier. Still, the light of unbelief present in her eyes. Neither of them wanted to believe his words. Okay, if that's the case, please at least take this. Watching the small vial filled with bluish liquid the girl offered, the man's eyes widened for a moment, most likely recognizing the concoction. I can't accept this. He was evidently well aware the cost of such liquid, or rather saying, aware how much it cost where he came from. The half-elf squirmed timidly, measuring the athletic man. But sir, just take it, blurted the second one rashly. Don't make her cry. Looking at the girl, she was indeed in the verge of crying. It was evident this adventurer was a crybaby. Besides that, our goddess would be angry if we do not help who needs it. The second adventurer, who was a demi-human carrying dog-like characteristics, carrying a huge backpack on his back, nodded happy, urging him to accept. In that case, thank you. The man nodded with a confident smile, taking the vial, just in the next moment. What are you waiting for? We need to hurry. In the next moment, a hoarse voice came from the crowd, revealing a muscled, towering adventurer who almost looked like a barbarian, only wearing fur-lined pants, bracers, and a headband. On his shoulder carrying a sizable warhammer made scorched bone. Yes, his body was full of scratches and scars. The man practically smelled from sweat and blood he shed today. It was evident he was not able to enjoy a good bath for a long time. Come, we need to exchange stones and items. Money waits to no one. Raising a bag, most likely filled with magic stones, the barbarian smirked triumphantly. Tonight we will feast like kings. Watching the man in simple linen clothes, measuring him for a moment, then spotting the small vial in his hand, the barbarian just huffed. Your choice, your potion, but don't complain to me again if you are out of money, Kritika. I will not lend you a single valis this time. Oh, of course, Korgoth-san. The half-elf's face reddened, looking away. Come, leave this fella. He seems to be one who can take care of himself. We still need to report our success to Kami-sama. Of course, the two adventurers nodded, giving the nod to the man, then left after the hulking adventurer. The girl watched them near the fountain, just huffed. A small favor, it will be exchanged for a bigger one. Sooner or later, this guy will go bankrupt. The small girl just shook her head, sighing disappointed. But seeing his clothes, it will be rather sooner than later. Recovering an apple, the girl snacked on it, thinking how much adventurers can exploit each other. Disgusting, she murmured. In the next moment, a voice called for her. You there? Yes, you, the midget with the big pack. Recognizing it was her who was called for, she jumped up, beaming her usual business smile. Yes, great adventurer-san. Do you need a supporter? This one gladly offers her services. Another day in the work, in the forced rule she hates so much. As usual, soon they will leave, and she will have to pick up the morsels left behind by the monsters. As usual, the adventurers refuse to pay her share at the end of the day, kicking her away if she requests her just share. She discussed the details with those despicable adventurers. The man caused the momentary fright in the square, sat down near the place she sat previously, giving her a chance to observe him better. Not as she wants anything from him, but it was better to know his face if she needs it later than regret it. The man was quite athletic, with muscles and built only through years of hard work possible. His face sunburnt, most likely carrying southern blood in his veins. His hair and sideburns brown, giving his face a certain character. Even if the girl was not interested in such a relationship, she must admit, he was quite handsome. Fortunately or unfortunately, the visible age difference between them edged the 5-10 years. Not as she was interested, she had other goals in mind. She needed no such distraction. That will be fine, adventurer-san. So we share the discussed amount. Yes, sure. The adventurer before her glanced at his companions, giving them a shady grin. The girl right away recognized that expression. They want to swindle her once more. Yet, she kept her beaming smile, offering it to her Ernest. It is not only them who know the art of the con. She as well knows 1 or 2 tricks. Just wait it out, bastards. Before leaving the place for the dungeon, one last time the small Palom glanced back at the man, spotting the golden handle of his sturdy sword. Lily found her next target. Better keep my eyes on him. Such weapons worth a hefty sum. Scene change, streets of Oreo. Confused, after resting near the fountain a little bit, Gazaf decided to stride the streets of this strange city, trying to figure out where he is or what happened. What's next? It was for an hour since he is walking, searching for some meaning behind the act of the mysterious magic caster. Why he sent him here? What happened? Where's the other 3 treasure? Where's the place here? Is this some absurd dream? Is he dead? Or Ames just sent him away with a clever trickery? They're kind like to use that much? Honestly, Gazaf had no idea, and it was just embarrassing in its finest quality. First, he did nothing but stare out from his head, staring the magnificent tower he exited from, rubbing his face to finally wake up from this nightmare. After washing his face a few times with the water of the fountain, he realized he is most likely alive. Even if not, it is a very lifelike dream or underworld he found himself. Whatever the case is, it came to light where he dropped to after asking around a little bit. According to a few, he asked, the place he dropped into called the labyrinth city of Oreo, the home of the famous dungeon. I never heard about a city named Oreo, nor any place named similarly if it comes to that. Strangely, Gazaf can't recall any city named Oreo, no matter how hard he thinks. Being a mercenary previous and the king's bodyguard, he was pretty well traveled. Visited a few times the surrounding countries under escorting Ramposa and doing his job as a salesword. Yet, he can't recall this name. Not a city, not a country, nor a rundown little village. He can't recall the name Oreo at all. Thought. A few resembled this name. None of them was the same. Asking a few questions from the people, fundamental questions about the surrounding and the like, the people he asked just glared at him like he was some soft brain. Asking how one doesn't know such basic things, shrugging, leaving him alone like he would be some madman. In all honesty, Gazaf was completely confused about what happened or where he was in reality. Thought. He had a few crazy theories, numbering 2, or rather 3. He rather not set out them in loud. His first theory was, the city was not as famous the people he asked tried to picture it. It merely seems to be that way for their point of view. He saw many times when locals imagine their living area in a much better light than it is in reality, refusing to generalize their position compared to the world. The second option, which honestly could cover the first, he was a very long way from home. I mean, a really far away. Meaning, the people he asked never heard about the Re-Estai's kingdom, nor the Baharuth Empire, nor the slain theocracy, or any surrounding country he knows. And it is correct at backward, because of the distance. He is well clueless about this place. Either way, it may happen he is in an entirely different continent. If my memory serves me well, other continents were never really explored. Though, I heard there might be some out there. The maps the kingdom owned were never really that expansive to show what's behind the veil. Basically, even the most detailed maps the king owned does not contain the whole land mass their kingdom located, only a part of it. Expanding to a little bit further to Eriwenshu. Then on the other side, ending where the sea city can be found. A city floated in the waves according to the rumors. I need to find a map to locate where am I. Then I can start my search for the treasures. Nothing worse than being lost. Gazaf was not a cartographer, but he can navigate if it was necessary. Under his years as a salesword, and as the king's bodyguard it was necessary to learn it. As a mercenary, he was only given rough directions or names where he had to go. Every other thing was entrusted to him to solve. He was an independent sword for hire, never really joining any established mercenary companies, but trying his luck alone, as he found them too inflexible and thought they would only hinder his advancement. A sword who can't even read a map or relied on steady employment of different mercenary groups forced to move with the tide and often forced to take jobs unsuited for them. Jobs often paid a lot worse than any employment which can be found just in the neighboring country. If your group rarely went there, then you will lose the opportunity to move freely and earn big cash. Worse, lost your opportunity to seek out people who can teach you new things about the art. The second reason that urged him to learn it was being named the kingdom's warrior captain. As the king's bodyguard, it was one of his duty to serve as a military advisor if the king requested such a service, help under battle planning. Knowing the map and the surrounding was essential for that. Speaking of this, the third option came to Gazaf's mind in the next moment. With the first two, he can do something. With the last, if no gods or devils around to make a deal, he can hardly do anything with. And as he heard, a few people mentioned, gods, and some familia. Yet, he was not sure. He doubted any true gods being around there. If true gods were in this place, that would be absurd, doesn't it? Under their history, several being depicted as gods and different deities descended. All the times under the account such events ended up with a catastrophe. Take for example the 6 great gods, the 8 greed kings, or even the evil deities those defeated by the 13 heroes. Their reign all ended with a catastrophe, suffering, and death. Looking around, seeing this thriving city, this was hardly evident. Thus, he concluded, God's not likely present here. Under history, gods only brought death and destruction. He witnessed it not, but what that granny told him, those absurd stories, he can't think otherwise. It really bugged him, but he can't yet exclude the third, or rather, the second option as a possibility. Namely, as he first thought, Ains really killed him, and now, his soul in the underworld, this city either a hallucination or one from the few safe places where the lost souls gather for shelter, in another word, a staging area. Some kind of purgatory. The souls going down in the dungeon either because they are forced to do so by their evil overlords, or those strange stones serve to sustain their existence. Or even more, they try to reach the bottom, thinking they can regain their life once reached the deepest point. To do that, they need to get stronger. Getting stronger takes time usually, and those souls gain their strength by fighting. It is sensible. One needs to grow to be strong. Arms need to be honed to be sharp. There comes his other theory based on this. Experiencing the problematic scale of those monsters, it is likely who reaches the bottom, either regain their life or enters the true underworld, in another name, hell, as the priests of different temples called it. That means this surface area is some staging area for souls where they slowly disappear if not feed by those stones, or exchanging them for different resources, food, drink, whatever the soul need to remain without a body to inhabit. Why else would they go to that place to hunt stones? What that barbarian said confirmed it surely. Tonight we will feast like kings. It would certainly explain why they are so desperate to go down there and collect those things. Indeed, the inside of that tower, which easily reached above the clouds, could house more than 1,000 people, and some space would still remain. I wonder if that place leads to hell. That means the top of that tower hid the paradise? Thought. It was an important question to ask. It did not matter now. He will figure out later. What he needed to make sure to know his exact position. Yes, that was the most important thing now. Be it the underworld or the realm of the living. He needs to figure out where he positioned. Yet, one thing was sure. Whoever built that tower, whatever material it was built from, it defied every sensibility he was comfortable with. Gazaf was not an architect, but seeing the sheer height of it, he was sure it would collapse under its own weight, or even from the wind hitting its wall's daily base, make it collapse, if not some magic behind things. Without magic to reinforce the structure, it was impossible to build structures that high. He was sure, even the theocracy, or even the empire would go bankrupt using so much special material, enchanting each slab to bear with the pressure and the erosion. Not even those 2 countries, said to be the most prosperous human nations in the world, can bear that financial pressure. Whatever was the case, whoever built it was surely an architectural genius. Even the empire would not dare to start such an undertaking. Either way, if anyone asked him, such a high building was neither practical nor cost-efficient. Even as a simple warrior he realized this. Humming, all 3, or rather 2, option was a possibility. Yet, he can't remain in the dark. He needs to find out where he is, where Gaundano sent him. His mind raced on this since walking around and asking the people. Gazaf was an open-minded individual. After experiencing so many things, he would be a fool not to be one. He knew the hard truth. The truth his old swordsmanship master, Vestre Cloth de Laufen, and his friend also recognized, his master long before him. The world is big and wide. It wouldn't be strange even if such things existed. Looking back in history, there were beings like demon gods and dragon lords as well, transported in a different continent, or dying and waking up in the underworld. Not that strange compared to that. Yeah, right, after the defeat of the kingdom's whole army under a few minutes, this worldview of his gained a steady confirmation. Nothing is impossible for those with enough power. If he ever manages to return, somehow, He needs to garner enough strength to face that man once more. Finding a safe place and hide from Ains not even appeared in his mind. I felt from the first minute when I meet Gaundano, this can't end well for the kingdom. Those fool nobles. Clenching his fist, he remembered well. He warned them, witnessing firsthand how that man managed to accomplish he was unable to, doing it with only one plus, that woman in the dark armor. But it would end the same way. Gaundano already chooses who he will ally. Retreating from the battlefield maybe ended up worse than clashing and losing that many people. Considering the situation of the country, it would right away give the nobles the chance to dethrone the king and put their puppet in his place. But what was more important? The lives of the people? The fathers and sons of so many? Or his loyalty to the king? The good king who lived to serve his people? An excessive surfeit of doubts started to rise in his stomach. Unable to decide which was more important, the king or the people he tried to protect. Which one? Stopping, looking at the stand before him, Gazaf looked down, squeezing his fists white, realizing how hopeless their situation was from the start. Sir, we offer many different dressings, from simple red beans as a side to soy. You can choose whatever you want. It only costs 10 valis. The girl behind the stall said so, offering the best sales clerk smile she could offer. Yet, Gazaf just stared down the booth, not even sparing any attention. From the start, we fought a hopeless battle. We could never win. How could we? Even without Gaundano in the picture. It was evident why the Empire forced out those yearly clashes on the plains of Katsa. It was evident why the theocracy sent those agents, refused our plea for help. Sir? Hello? The sales clerk girl waved before the man, but he still ignored her, staring down the steaming dressing on her stand. For her, it looked like the man just really can't decide. In truth, Gazaf really can't decide, but his struggle hid a different reason. It was evident from the start. Those yearly battles may seem a meaningless tradition between the sides, the measure of power. Yet, it had a huge effect on the long term. Year after year, the kingdom weakened. Corruption gnawed and infested its insides. Peasants drawn away from their duties, enlisted in the royal army forcefully. After the battle, most of them crippled, never returning home or their agricultural work, making the fertile lands lack workforce left on the grass. Leaving the fertile lands abandoned, fallowing and eroding, unable to serve the needs of people and produce food. In the last few years, we imported more food than ever before. As Gazaf racked his mind on this, behind the stall, the girl started to creep out, but tried her best to hide it behind a forced smile. If you want my opinion, my favorite dressing is the meaty one, though that's more expensive. With 1 valis to be precise. Maybe our fight was hopeless from the beginning. Is this the circle of the devil? From the beginning, the empire and the nobles instigated this destitute of the people to rise against the ruling power, slowly pushing the kingdom in the point where defeat and the collapse would be inevitable. The theocracy helped not even sparing a glance, looked away. Gazaf gritted his teeth, trembling due to the helpless state of his world. Even with me in Ramposa's side, victory was a dubious thing from the beginning. Be it years or decades, sooner or later the collapse would happen. With me or without me, it was inevitable. My presence only managed to win a few plus years. After this defeat, the empire or even the theocracy will soon make their final move, maybe ending us with the subdivision of the whole kingdom, turning it nothing more than a page in the history book. All the people and I worked so hard worth notch. Gazaf wanted not to accept this hard truth. He honestly hoped the influence and corruption of the nobles and the emperor spread not that far, that he only imagined things, sincerely hoping that Climb and Brain will be able to fetch away the threat, even without his help, protect the people. Yet, as he walked, thinking on things, reaching this point, he started to realize, maybe he was too hopeful from the beginning, that his fight and struggle worth notch from the beginning. Sir, a voice of a woman called for him once more, but he felt himself numb realizing, everything he fought for worth nothing. Making this walk through this city, having this little time to think through things made him recognize the sad truth. I failed. It was an impossible goal from the beginning. Sir, if you really can't choose, I will choose for you. The girl behind the stall said, worried, but the man just collapsed on his knees, feeling weak. He finally realized, even if he goes back. Maybe there will be no kingdom to save and protect. That his fight was meaningless from the beginning. Why go back then? His time is over. He was tired. Not as much physically, but mentally. Thinking things through under his walk made him realize this. Farewell, he murmured once more, making the girl watch him strange. Sir? Maybe it was seconds, maybe minutes, maybe hours he remained in that position, reacting to nothing. His words turned dark, falling on his side. Thud. The strongest warrior of the kingdom lost his consciousness. Geez, it is a simple Jagamarukan. What's so hard to choose from? To collapse from this? The girl wearing a simple apron above the white, torn mini dress gritted her teeth, looking very dissatisfied with the current situation. What do I do with him? My shift ends soon. Thinking at her beloved, she shook her head, her twin ponytails moving wild. The boss will scream with me again. Why me? Scene change. Oreo, the guild. Wah! What happened? Several scared screams came from the building. An impressive building positioned in a central place near the Northwest Avenue. One cannot really miss even if they does so intently. Is a monster escaped the dungeon? Impossible. The adventurers on the way would have cut it down. Nah, this is just a guy covered with blood, a shitload of it. Ina-san. Ina-san. Like a revenant who came back from death, Belle rushed through the whole town, seeking to reach this place as soon as possible. Surely, covered with blood from tip to toe, he earned a few confused gazes. Huh, Belko you. Recognizing the desperate call of her client. The half-elf advisor can't help but sigh, stiffening before regaining her usual cold composure, seeing the blood-covered boy. If you are stained with blood when you return, you should at least first take a shower. She pointed it out, hiding her surprise and horror behind a rigid expression. Albeit, it was harder than one might imagine. Being the little white rabbit looked like a person who bathed in red paint, or a pool of blood. Many of her colleagues actually tried to get farther away, starting to feel the smell came with the dried monster blood which covered the boy. Sorry. Listening to Ina, the boy bowed apologetically. He really looked embarrassed. Shower. Now, clean your clothes. Only after we can talk. I will prepare a room until that. Looking around, seeing the scared, or rather amused, an expression of the people, the boy went red under the excessive amount of red paint. Looking very embarrassed. Okay, I will be back soon. Fortunately, the guild had free shower cabins and a good method to remove the excess blood, monster remains, and similar stain from clothes and armor, making the maintenance of such thing easy and simple. It was more demanded service one might think. Monsters usually not gave up on their life in a peaceful way, rather, generally in a messy way, spouting blood and remains wherever they died. Yet, it was not the usual sight someone covered the excrement of the creatures in this degree. The boy with the white hair really messed up something ended up this way. After a few minutes, the two sit inside a small room that is separated especially within the guild hall. Facing each other, Ina and Belle separated only by a table, the girl giving the boy a piercing glare. Her green eyes are especially strict from this angle. I fear, this table will not be enough to save me the scolding I will get from Ina-san. For a moment, Belle trembled, awaiting the judgment the half-elf will tailor for him. You actually were able to bring that bloody smell and absolutely horrifying appearance directly across the streets from the dungeon to here. I really have doubts about your brain. About this. Looking away, the boy's ears turned even more red in death than they were at first. Said by the beautiful Ina, his heart seemed to have been stabbed by a knife. Tears started to trickle in the side of his eyes. Ina gave a wry smile, pointed her finger at his nose. Her heart seemed to melt a little bit seeing the repenting expression of Belle. You should pay better attention next time, okay? Yes. Yes. He nodded vigorously right away, sparing not a moment to hesitate. Also next is, you just said you wanted information about Azu Wallenstein, right? What? About this. His face flushed before he explained the things. Saying them so fast Ina was barely able to follow. I had dashed down to the 5th floor from the 2nd floor where I usually stayed. The instant that I had entered, I met a minotaur and was being chased by it. Just when I was forced into a dead end, I was saved by. In an instant, his mouth shut, unable to continue. Saved by who? Is Aze Wallenstein the one who saved you? Ina once more looked very strict, adjusting her spectacles. This gave her a very teacherly picture. The picture honestly made Belle afraid. Well, the boy pushed together his fingers, looking away hesitantly. In truth, it was another adventurer who saved me. I don't know who he was, and at that time, I was still very unstable. When I was preparing to say my thanks, she appeared, asking if we were all right. Looking at me with those. Belle gulped, unable to continue out of his sheer embarrassment, remembering those golden orbs staring him down. I see. So you said your thanks and left. Guessed Ina, but she cannot be farther from the actual truth. Belle laughed awkward, looking away. Isn't this the way it happened? Her raised brow made him more hesitant, only shuddering the next sentence. What? Belle? What's wrong? Are you all right? Seeing the young man in this state really concerned the advisor, not only because she was his advisor, but because deep inside she considered Belle as a friend, maybe a little bit attracted to him. Belle gulped, watching the hanging orbs hugged by the tight, guild uniform as Ina stood up, leaning above the table looking concerned, only for a moment before turning his head away shuddering once more. Belle the text stopped working, only for a moment before rebooting. Belle, what happened? I ran away. Okay, I ran away, he shouted desperate, grabbing his head and curling up in the couch. I was frozen. I had no idea what to do. Calm down. Calm down. It took a few more attempts to make Belle calm down, but Ina managed to make it happen. She was quite stubborn after all. Why did you not follow what I said? You not only entered the dungeon by yourself, but you also stubbornly went to the lower floors. Didn't I tell you many times? Taking risks is absolutely not allowed. Previous she was nice, saying to the boy it was absolutely normal in his state of mind running away. Now, she turned the mood reverse, scolding him intense being too reckless by going so deep without preparation, alone moreover, against her advice. Yes, adventurers must not go on an adventure. This was Ina's opening statement when she first met Belle. Although judging from the text it may seem contradictory if we considered the description of being an adventurer, but the true meaning behind this sentence was the next. You must always be careful and well prepared, and you must always place safety as a priority. It was especially good advice for a newcomer like him. It is something that he should always bear in mind because this stage is where most deaths occur in an adventurer's career. Yet, he failed to consider this recklessly when he stepped through the borders of the 5th floor, thinking he can do it alone. Meeting an LV-2 Minotaur on the 5th floor is something that no one could imagine. From common knowledge, this monster should only come out from the 15th floor or below. Yet, it still happened. In the moment when Ina said she had a feeling of did something happen in the dungeon, it comes to light she had the right reason to worry. Really, every normal level 1 would have died meeting such a monster. Just imagine this. Belle's spine trembled, followed by a strong feeling of urinating. Bearing with the scolding girl, he swore to his heart that he would absolutely never forget about the things that Ina had mentioned. It seems like you always have a fantasy regarding the dungeon. What you did today, I guess that is also the reason, right? Correct. Completely correct. He wanted to pursue an encounter with the opposite gender, so he wanted to take a little bit of risk. But if he would directly set it out, Ina's fist will inevitably land on his face at that moment. Initially, Belle only wanted to become an adventurer because he had always had an aspiration of having an encounter with beautiful girls he has never seen before. Kind of like those hero comics where they have a fateful encounter with such beings. This motive of his was really that impure. Even when he was going through the procedures in the guild, Ina stared at him doubtfully for a while because she saw him exude a suspicious and passionate atmosphere, although she could not capture what, at first, Belle carried in his heart. But from today on, it is different. The boy realized, if he wants to become an excellent adventurer who can conquer any girl he wishes, he really needs to throw away the impure motives. The reason for entering the dungeon will become very simple. That is to have an encounter with that person, naturally, not the man, but the girl who captured his heart. He still wished to meet that adventurer to give him his thanks for the rescue. It was not his main motive. According to his dead grandfather, it was essential to be a humble person from time to time. Girls usually like ordinary, humble heroes, giving their act more meaning than it really is. Basically, the one saved him gave him the standard how such a humble adventurer should look and act. Courageous, athletic, rushing to help others, asking if he is all right from the first moment. That's how heroes should act. Caring and courteous. According to Grandpa, girls like a man who acts like that. There is the thing about Wallenstein and that other adventurer who saved me. Belle shuddered, looking very disoriented. As a member of the guild, I cannot leak any adventurer's information, but I can tell you what is already well known by others. Ina first gave off a short intro, then began to speak. Somehow, it always feels that she was rather intimate. Perhaps it is because Belle was still a newcomer. Real name, Aze Wallenstein. A swordswoman, the core member of the Loki family. Her swordplay is unmistakably at the peak of all the adventurers. She had wiped out a large group of LV-5 monsters by herself. So amongst the adventurers, she also has a title, Sword Princess. It seems that name has also spread among the gods, so she has also obtained many praises like. Aze is unparalleled in the world. She also taught a lesson to those approaching her with impure desires, or rather, she completely crushed them. At this point of time, it seems like she had broken the record of 1,000 failed courtships. What else is there? Crossing her arms, Ina pondered, trying to recall the important information from Aze. The rest is almost all about her appearance and looks. Isn't that only from the perspective of an adventurer? Belle squirmed uncomfortably. How about her hobbies or favorite food? And there was something that you didn't say. Seeing his face turning red and hearing his timid voice, Ina's eyes twinkled 2 or 3 times. What? It can't be that Belcoin fell in love with Wallenstein, right? Immediately, the rigid expression of the advisor turned of a mischievous cat, leaning closer to Belle's face. No, well, yes. Huh. You can't help it. Even I from the same gender would sometimes freeze when I see her. Ina gave a wry smile and lifted the red tea to her mouth. A sequential action, yet it was extremely elegant. This person, who praised Wallenstein, actually also had high popularity among the adventurers. With gentle and crystal eyes, a pointed chin, and a beautiful straight nose. She has all the conditions necessary for beauty. It is said that there are many individuals that like this advisor girl. Actually, when Belle became aware that Ina was going to become his advisor, he was really happy. As a half-breed, she has the beauty of the elf's typical appearance characteristics. But at the same time, she had an unexpected affinity for care. A lot of people have fallen for the error gap between this impression and reality. After Ina thought for a while, she leaned closer to Belle and whispered in his ear. Wallenstein currently is not dating anyone. Belle can't help but shudder, giving a victory gesture in the end. Yes. About hobbies aside from that, I honestly have not heard anything regarding it. No. This is unrelated to my service. I am not a love expert, she giggled softly, covering her mouth cutely with her fist. That's enough. Thank you, Ina-san. It is more than enough to start. Thank you. The youngster with messy white hair stood up, bowing, prepared to leave to exchange his stones. But after making his first step, the gentle voice of his advisor stopped him. Wait, aren't you curious about the person who saved you? I might point you in the right direction. That. Belle starched his head embarrassed. Because of his infatuation with Aze, and the effect her appearance pushed on him, for a moment he completely forgot about his savior. He wanted to ask about him, but after hearing, Aze had no actual partner, all of this blurred out from his head. Yes, that's. Do you want me to search for him? If you give me some info, I may be able to look into it. Yes, that would be good. I would like to thank him for saving me, personally, if possible. Belle looked down at his knees, grabbing them concerned. This is the least I can do after I left him like that. He still felt remorseful remembering the case. That man saved him. Yet, he did not even have enough courage to thank him. Just because he spotted Aze, just because he felt shameful after heard Aze's companion laughed at him, he simply ran away. At that moment, he felt it would be better to hide from the face of the world. He felt it would be better if he simply not even existed in the first place. He already suspected what Wallenstein and his savior think of him acting like this. I am really a cowardly individual. From what you said, he dispatched the minotaur you encountered easily. A creature which is dangerous even for an LV-2. That means he is at least that, or above that level. Please describe him, and I will make sure to find him for you. Yes. And thus, Belle described his savior. A muscular man, With southern blood in his veins, he appeared to have a sun-bathed dark face with an experienced/veteran-like expression. Short trimmed hair and black eyes that are as sharp as a sword. His posture firm and heroic, his face offered a gentle expression once smiled. Even if he only saw him for a moment before running away, the man had a characteristic appearance, like he would come from an entirely different place or realm. Belle was sure he would recognize him once they meet again. I see. Ina noted in her notebook. Anything to add? From this much, it will be hard to find him. Armor, weapon? Usually, high-ranked adventurers wear unique armor and use weapons of high grade. He wore no armor actually. Ina's hand stopped, glaring at Belle. What? As I saw it, he only wore some simple linen clothes. Not even the basic armor the guild usually provides. It was quite bloodied actually as I saw him. Most likely monster blood. He murmured in the end. It may be that he found the armor restricting. Pondering, Ina knows too well. Some adventurers prefer to dive into the dungeon without any additional protection. Mostly the Amazons, who hated when their skin was not exposed in the most ridiculous degree, and people who found the said armor restricting. It was a foolish idea, though, going there without even some simple leather armor. Even the simplest protection saved lives not once, but many times in the past. Still, there were people who did just that, dived in without any armor to protect themselves. If they did that, unfortunately, advisors can't do anything in that case, just scold them, or if they are high-level advise the use of protection. Still, this is some clue we can start. Anything to add? What kind of weapon he used? Immediately, the picture of that elegant sword flashed in his mind. The sword which was spotless even when both he and that man gained some blood stain on their clothes. I think it was an enchanted item. A sword. Yes, definitely it was. That's good. Knowing this, we already narrowed the suspects. Fortunately, the guild had an itemized description from each adventurer. Alongside their basic information, from level 2, this datasheet contained what kind of fighting style they prefer, what kind of weapon and armor they use. If their gear made by one of the famous smith familiars, for example by the Hephaestus or Goibniu, then the guild can request their help to identify the buyer or owner of the said product the adventurer used. The adventurers can also register their own items under their name, preventing anyone illegally use them or finding it easier if someone stole it. This ordination prevents forgery, theft, and recovery of valuable objects. If that man really owned an enchanted sword, then Ina will find him according to his weapon's description. It was a broadsword, I think. Being Belle only watched it for a moment and was not sure the characterization of swords, he can only guess the type of the weapon. Good, anything else? Yes, it was extremely sharp-looking. Colored green, slightly glowing in the dark of the dungeon. Its hilt, if I saw it right, colored golden. When that adventurer sliced, I only heard swash, and the minotaur fell to pieces. It was almost like it can cut the air. The boy's eyes practically shone describing the blade. It was like he saw a legendary weapon handled by a legendary figure. Ah, I see. Ina starched her head, reading once again what she noted. Do you know who he is? Please. Ina, I need to know. Huh, Belle. It is not that easy. We have thousands of registered adventurers. Unfortunately, from this much, I can't tell who he is certainly. I can only tell you we will surely find him. A glowing, green broadsword with golden handle is not an everyday sight. If it comes to that, Ina never once saw such weapon in the guild. It was oddly strange since she worked here for several years. Give us a few days, and we will find him for you. Okay, that's fine, thank you, Ina. Omo, don't mention it. Now, as we cleared this. Abruptly, she stood up, making Belle freak out. In the next moment, urging him to leave the private box the two used for the discussion. Chop, Belle. I have other things to take care. His feeble protests ultimately did not work, and the two have returned to the guild's hall. Leaving the box, the hall they entered was built with white marble, was very impressive. Right now, there is almost no one here. There are only images of adventurers and gods on the wall that had a bit of existence. Ina is really mean. You are currently an adventurer. There are still many things you have to pay attention to, okay? Take an example from your savior and become stronger, okay? About that, even he knows about it. The current boy won't be able to protect anyone. In order to survive to the next day, there was no other way but to use his body and enter the dungeon. If he does not develop an awareness for saving money to sustaining his adventure, he will die before reaching his dream. It was not the acceptable or desired outcome he sought. As for Ace-san, you have already obtained a grace from a god besides from Loki. So if you were to get too close to Wallenstein, who is a key member of the Loki familia, I would also be troubled. Yes, like a sad puppy who had been scolded, Bell lowered his head, looking very miserable. I'm not telling you to give up on your feelings. Just that you should have to look at the reality. If I don't say this, it would be bad for you too. Take the high-level adventurers as an example. Learn from them. They all worked hard to reach the point where they are. The meaning behind those words is that from now on, he should also continue to work hard as an adventurer. Seeing his unwilling but surrendering face, Ina also returned to her role of a guild official and asked a question. Exchanging gold. Yes, at least before I met the Minotaur, I defeated some monsters. Bell showcased his leather coin bag. Thought, barely any stone cling in it. His today income will be indeed poor. Then let's go to the gold exchange. I'll go with you. Despite how annoyed he made her, Bell still felt guilty deep inside. Although, he knew well that she scolds him for his own good. The boy did not yet understand much about how the world really worked. The only thing his grandfather taught him before he died, that brave adventurers encounter girls in the dungeon. The said hero saves the girl, then the girl falls in love with him. Spouting nonsense about manly dreams. Nothing which can be really used in the real world or utilized in the dungeon. Because of such reasons, the boy lacks some common sense, can't really understand how deeply the only two women in his life, Ina and his goddess, worried about him. The boy was too reckless, thinking everything will work out like in the books. Unfortunately, things usually not as simple than in the books. Reality was a hard teacher who often guts newcomers miserably, caring not who or where they come from. Either way, one thing was sure, the boy will have a hard time to raise his head in front of Ina from now on. I really hope this little sermon made Bell more considerable. It is wrong enough that many adventurers die day after day because they refuse to listen to the reason and go too deep. Ina in truth hated to scold people. Unfortunately, she had no other choice but to do so. Most of the adventurers were that hard to reason with, their head filled with stone and the false picture of heroism. Leading the way, the two went together to the gold exchange located inside the guild and obtained today's rewards. After exchanging the stones and the item, leaving his concerns and the guild behind, Bell started his way back to the hidden church, seeking to reunite with his goddess. Spouting an accidental sentence to his advisor before leaving, dashing home. I love you, Ina-san. It was an accident, only meant to express his gratitude, yet it sounded somewhat different for the young advisor. The half-bred elf turned lobster, giving some other meaning the innocent sentence. Scene change, streets of Oreo. It was quite struggling, but the girl managed to drag the man behind the stall. What do I do with you? Because of her big boobs. Her small frame was even more emphasized, giving her the epithet in the heaven, lowly with big boobs. Who knew it was such a hard choice? I mean, this is simple Jagamarukan, choosing a dressing not that big deal. Or, alternatively, one can eat at nature, simply hinting some salt on the potato croquette. Strangely, the female felt it was not the real reason why the man collapsed. Seeing his weary expression, something must behind this sudden collapse. Still, he should do it elsewhere. My boss will scream with me again. What to do with you? Grabbing her head. Honestly, she was clueless. She rather left such a journey to that stick without boobs. Her longtime rival. Why it all happening with me? Inspecting him further, this individual rather looked otherworldly for her godly eyes. Never before witnessing such facial characteristic and appearance. The man gave away a strange aura, making him differ from other children. Even without her arcana, she felt this difference. His muscles underneath his clothes looked like made from fibers of iron. Only the monster blood covering his clothes in a great margin ruined this picture. But I suppose, the children of this world, all different. Not one the same. All capable of changing, not like us. Being I descended not long ago, my knowledge about the children is limited. Blue orbs twinkled, measuring him a tip to toe. Spotting first the medallion hidden under the linen cloth, then the golden handle of a broadsword behind his back. I wonder if he is an adventurer. She was not a weapon junkie like her best friend was. For her, it was all the same, a tool to kill things. She can only tell a sword with a golden handle must cost a hefty sum. Of course, only if the golden color was not just a simple painting covered the iron underneath. BRR. Watching the outline of the medallion and the weapon made her shiver. Her sense of danger flared even looking at them. I suppose it is nothing. Weapons always give me this vibe. Still, she had the sense of danger even looking the man and that weapon. As she thought of this, a new idea surfaced in her mind. I get it. This will help. The girl snapped her finger proud as she came up with the idea. Grabbing some cold water, she splashed the man's face. Splash. As expected, no answer. The man did not even move his eyes. He was out of cold. Why it didn't work? Her eyes twitched, trying it over and over again, getting more and more worked up and annoyed as some passing people investigated the strange noise behind the stall. Wake up! All of them just shrugged, or looked afraid, seeing the small goddess yanking and continuously slapping a man that was twice her size. It was indeed an intimidating sight. Neither one wanted to risk their well-being and raise her ire. From the divine air, her presence implied. All of them suspected who, or rather what she was. Most of them surely thought she just wants to recover the payment from a customer who refused to pay. Thus, sparing them no more attention progressed further. It was evident if a goddess wants her payment, she will recover it, with force if it was necessary. This exact small goddess looked too fierce to bother her under her revenge run. Wake up! Wake up! Slap! Slap! In the end, yanking him, she slapped Gazaf a few times. Being the gentle way failed to work previous, it was her only option. Wake up! The girl, or better said goddess, gave one last try. Wah! Goddess Wrath Punch. Unfortunately, at that moment she shouted the name of her special attack. The man started to wake up and move, making her fist slip out of her imbalanced state. An accidental hit the man's most precious part with a downward aimed strike, which aimed to hit the stomach, just slipped a few tens of centimeters away. Ah! Brew! The man jumped up abruptly as the hit connected, his eyes wide, tears filled, throwing the girl off from him immediately. Ei! And the small girl threw away yelped, landing in a strange position upside down. As the man, he collapsed on his knee, grabbing the part between his legs. White! Even in this underworld, my suffering eternal. Tears welled up in his eye as he whispered, searching the assaulter ever intense. First that, now this. Why the world must punish me? Sir? Recovering, the girl approached the suffering man, looking very apologetically. I am really sorry. Why? Gazaf's eyes still filled with tears. The suffering he experienced, now surely on par with the training of his swordsmanship master, made him endure. Glaring at the girl that way, lowly with big boobs backed slightly. Ugh! You can hit many things a man owns, but if you hit the precious part, you can defeat even the toughest monk or martial artist. Under battle, he always made sure his posture protects this part, making sure no attack comes close. But in that helpless state, even Gazaf Stronoff, the kingdom-renowned warrior captain, can't do anything but suffer the consequences. Sorry. 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 It was not intentional. The girl jumped down, taking a Dajiza pose, pushing her buttocks in the air and her head on the dust. Exhaling, Gazaf struggling gulped down the pulsating pain, using a martial art to strengthen his tolerance. Still, such hit cannot be easily shrugged down. Even for the famous warrior captain, it took a great amount of concentration. For a moment, the girl peeked up, feeling some strange energy leaving the man's body, a peculiar feeling which was both alien and familiar for her divine senses. That was not nice. Standing up slowly, Gazaf rested his hands on his knees, leaning against a wall. I am sorry. Finally regaining his composure and wiping away his tears of pain, Gazaf watched the girl. For his experienced eyes, she still looked like a young maiden. Peeking up from her position, those blue orbs were on the verge to shatter, filled with regret and tears. Yet, even seeing only her upper face and her small, but a well-formed frame, he had a feeling this person was not entirely human in a sense. A priest? A cleric? A paladin? She gives me a familiar feeling. If I had to measure it to something, then it is like Lady Lockhue's, or Lady Remedios the White. Yet, her presence is somehow different from a faith-based fighter or magic caster. I can't explain why. Thinking on this, the former warrior captain still watched the dojizing goddess. Please, stand up. It is unruly from a young lass like you to lower herself that way. At this moment, seeing the young lass which gave away that divine aura, he completely forgot why he really collapsed, what pushed him in the state of desperation and hopelessness. It was truly shameful thinking about it. Really, now as he regained his senses, he started to remember, and he can't help but scold himself doing so. Giving up on the kingdom, the king, and the people because of a spark of doubt? I am truly shameful. Once I return, I need to wash away this stain. And I will return, even if it takes 1,000 years. Once again, the light lit anew in his eyes. His spirit renewed. Are you mad at me? Gazaf shrugged for a moment. He should be mad, as she hit that part. But he was never a man who hold grudges over mere accidents. Neither liked to create bonds based on foil. That's not how he worked. Besides that, this painful experience made him remember his past experiences. Kicked him back to the track, he almost left. Giving up only lead to falling. Until there is a chance, one had to clamp on it. Of course, between sensible bounds, fighting for a lost cause still not worth the effort. But the kingdom's still not lost. Yes, until people stand their ground. Until Climb, Brain, and other people stand behind the king and his people. This cause is just and worth fighting for. Besides that, even if the above-mentioned would not be the case, those blue orbs staring him that way made him embarrassed and urged him to forgive either way. No, I am not. I am not mad at you. I am sure it was a mere accident. Albeit it was still hard to kneel out of the pulsating pain. The man leaned forward, offering his hand. Please stand up. Can you explain to me what happened? Wiping her eyes, the girl nodded. Yes, you stopped before my stall, and your expression went blank for a moment. Then you fell on your knees, then collapsed. The way she motioned this was quite comical. Gazaf can only think how much of a fool he made of himself under all of this. Then it is I who should thank you for waking me up and apologize the inconvenience I caused. Even if your method was unruly, it worked. Thank you. He bowed like a proper knight. Even if officially he was not one, as only nobles can become knights in the kingdom. Yet, he still preferred to uphold the basic courtesy around people. Women usually preferred that way. Also, most men might not care about it, but around nobles who demanded this behavior and humility, he was forced to learn this much. Okay. The girl nodded surprised, accepting his hand and getting up. You look tired. Are you all right? What happened? Looking at the man, deep dark circles were visible under his eyes, like he did not sleep for long days. Oh, let's just say this was a long day. Gazaf nudged his neck. Not physically, but mentally he was tired, exhausted beyond measure. Before continuing his search, he needs a place to sleep. The girl nodded understanding, looking around, suspicious, and in the next moment, ta-ta-ta-ta, rummaging to her stand, she did something Gazaf was unable to see behind her back. And at the moment she turned back. Here, take this, for the pain I caused. Holding in her hand a paper filled with jagamarukin, hinted by a brown sauce, Gazaf watched it strangely. It is really not necessary. It was I who caused you trouble. Please, just take it. This is the least, she snapped with a pouting face. Okay. Now, seeing her childish appearance, the girl excluded some divine air, making her look somewhat otherworldly, making Gazaf somewhat reluctant to refuse her offer. Her petite frame looked quite exaggerated with those oversized orbs on her chest. Yet, she was perfectly proportioned. Thank you. Don't mention it. The girl smiled divinely. Just don't tell anyone, okay? She gave a mischievous wink, a wink which made Gazaf smile small. Yes. It was not his intention to tell anyone anyway. At this moment, he still felt shameful collapsing like that. Yet, now seeing the people somewhat happy in this place, he can't help but feel a little bit better. Ding dong. The nearby temple tolled the bell, signing the current time. Well, end of my shift. The girl stretched her limbs, relieved she can finally go home. In that case, I bother you no more, my lady. Thank you for the meal. May we meet again? Ah, sure. The goddess blinked confused, seeing the man bow, then leave her to stand, disappearing in the crowd. I wonder which familia he belongs to. She was sure the man was an adventurer. judging from his sword, that strange medallion hidden underneath his clothes. The amount of monster blood covered his clothes and body. Witnessing the sheer strength she felt from his direction, it cannot be otherwise. No matter. Better pack up and go home. I am sure Belcoin waiting for me. We will celebrate tonight. As she started to pack, she spotted something where the man laid. On the ground, a restorative potion and a few stones scattered, confirming her suspicion. Oh dear, how I will ever get back this to him. She was both confused and worried about the case. What I will do now, deciding it will be better to pack the items away, then inquire about him in the guild tomorrow, she continued her preparation. Around a half an hour later, she already packed up and passed down the amount she earned to her boss, finishing the daily booking. Humming a melodic lullaby, the goddess headed home, carrying a paper filled with some potato croquette. HMHMHMHM. She was proud, knowing she worked hard today. This day was hard. Just now, she remembered her last client, that strange man who collapsed before her stall, and at that moment, she stopped, paling slightly, grabbing her head and brushing her raven hair wildly. Damn it, I forgot to ask him if he wants to join my familia. Even if the chance was low, she asked every passing adventurer or any person who looked strong, most of the times gaining the straight answer, no, or the person saying, she is a cute mascot, and patting her head before leaving. Naturally, the only thing she can do is pouting. She neither wants nor can force others to join her familia. Geez. The surrounding people just watched her queer, thinking the goddess gone mad before continuing their way. A few hours passed, but gazaf still strode the streets, exploring the city, seeking a bookstore or a mapmaker to inspect a world map. Unfortunately, being he can't really read the text these people used, it was harder than he first thought. In the time he found his way to the bookstore one of the residents recommended, the store already closed for today. Thus, the man can't do much but continue his exploration, seeking a place where he can eat and sleep. The sun already settled, and the street lamps fueled by the miraculous, magic stone technology lit up on the side of the avenue. Most of the shops already closed their business. A few shady places were still open. Yet, even at this time, many people were out, doing their business, the different inns filled with life as usual. I need to find a proper inn, possibly one where I don't have to worry about being robbed under sleep. Stopping and rummaging through his pouch, only a few misshaped copper and silver coin appeared, though his pockets and the said pouch were filled with that strange stone and a few monster parts he recovered in the dungeon. He was not sure if such items can be exchanged for a meal or a bed for a night. I wonder if it's good enough to pay with. Looking around, searching for a few minutes, he found a bustling inn nearby. As expected, he can't read the sign. It was written in completely alien writing that he was familiar with. Only the familiar sign which signed the nature of the place made him recognize it. Well, it is confirmed. I am in a completely different part of the world. I recognize no familiar character, or underworld if it comes to that. At this moment he cared very little for that fact. He only wanted a good rest and something to eat, maybe some beer to wash away his sorrow and confusion. Think nothing for at least a night. He will worry about the rest tomorrow. One way to find out. Deciding it is better to try than let the chance slip, he approached the bar. Outside a cat person waited, invited the guest with her cheerfully attitude. Come, Naya. The hostess of fertility opened for business, awaiting her dear customers. Nya, dear adventurers, come in and taste our offers. Nya, ale and delicious meal for every visitors. Approaching the shouting girl, he nodded before entering. The girl nodded back with a welcoming smile, motioning to head in. Dear sir, take a seat. Nya, one of our waitresses will take up your order soon. Out of his exhaustion, hunger, and thirst, gazaf even forgot to ask about the prices or the fact if his money, or even those strange stones, can be exchanged for goods and a bed for the night. It was since few hours he ate those croquettes the girl offered, and they were not as filling as he hoped. The man not even drank since he woke up in that underground catacomb. After participating a battle, possibly dying/transported from the hands of Ains, cutting his way through the whole dungeon, not speaking about spending the remainder of the day exploring the city, he was right to be hungry, thirsty, and mentally exhausted. A man needed his meal, a warrior even more so. The body needed to refuel after battle and hardship. Battling. The use of martial arts exhausted not only the mind but the bodily reserves as well. Even the amulet of immortality can't replace a satiating meal and a good night rest. Well, this is certainly a popular place. Looking around, the place filled to the brim, just as from outside, just as well its insides while cultured and orderly. What awaits him here? Will he get the rest and meal he deserves? Or the burly owner crush him in her grasp? You will know next time. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed Support the Writer. Don't forget to like, sub, and share.